Know my heart and mind. Welcome to the Empowering the Village podcast with your host, Andrea Greer. As the saying goes, it takes a village to raise a child. We tackle the real questions and tricky topics you often wonder about, so you never have to journey alone. In this podcast, your host, Andrea Greer, is here to support you so children like me can thrive and flourish. Join us as we dive deep into discussions designed to empower, educate, and connect our community. Are you ready? Let's jump in.
Kia ora koutou, and welcome to another episode of Empowering the Village podcast. I'm your host, Andrea Greer, the founder of Nurturing Relationships. And today I have a very special guest and friend, Caroline Loo. And I just want to, I look forward to this really special conversation that we're going to have, a very meaningful and heartfelt conversation. So thank you, Caroline.
You're very welcome. It's great to be here.
Yeah, thank you. So before we begin, I just want to offer a gentle content warning for our listeners. So today's conversation explores grief, child loss, supporting children through loss. So these are deeply tender themes and may bring up strong emotions. So please take care of yourself as you listen. Please feel free to pause, take breaks, so step away at any time if you need to. So I would like to introduce Caroline Loo. So Caroline Loo is the founder and director of the Loss and Grief Center in Southland, which is celebrating its 10th year anniversary this year. Congratulations.
Oh, thank you. It's crazy.
Yeah, what a big milestone.
It is a big milestone.
Yeah, amazing. So Caroline is a passionate advocate for whose work is deeply rooted in her personal journey of loss, healing, and courage following the death of her own daughter. So through her lived experience, she brings a powerful voice to conversations around grief, resilience, and how we support individuals and whānau to navigate loss. Her mahi is really birthed from within.
It is. It really is.
From love, from courage and lived truth. So offering deep compassion and insight to those walking in similar journeys. So Caroline, I have so much deep respect for your work. I've spent 5 or 6 years working alongside you at the Loss and Grief Center, and it's such a privilege to have you here today on this podcast.
Thank you. I really appreciate the invitation.
Yeah, thank you for being here. So let's begin before we move into deeper parts of the conversation, like the listeners to maybe get a sense of who you are. So what's something outside of work that brings you joy?
Well, there's lots of things. Obviously, family. And having adult children that have their own lives and a granddaughter who's about to turn 5, that's really exciting and wonderful and very cool. But I really love exercising, being in the garden, going for bike rides and just spending time with my family and being in nature.
It's so cool. I can feel all the endorphins and oxytocin.
Absolutely. Yes. Yeah, it's key. I've got to do it daily. Otherwise I'm not my best version of myself.
Yeah, so cool. There's so much awareness there around that. Awesome. And I know you've traveled to different parts of the world. Do you have a favorite place in the world? And what is it about that place that feels special to you?
That's a really interesting question, because when I think about the places that were special, it's because of the memories I have and the people who were there with me. And so I could go global, but I'm actually going to choose somewhere in the Catlins.
Ah, cool. Yeah.
Some of you may know Koropuku Falls. It's not as popular as some of the bigger falls in the Catlins area, but it's beautiful and it's rugged and the track is rough and muddy and you have to climb over rocks and walk along logs across streams. So it's beautiful. It's untouched.
It's so cool. I have never been there. I need to find out where it is.
It's worth it. Often there's nobody else on that path but you and the people you're with. And at the end, you're greeted with a beautiful waterfall.
Wow.
So it's a real soul place for me.
That's so cool. So you're talking about that, I can just feel myself going there, like feeling blissful.
Yes, absolutely. And wear good shoes, because it is muddy and it is rugged and there are rocks and you do have to climb, but it's worth it.
That's cool. Awesome. What a beautiful place. So, Caroline, you have a very powerful lived experience that sits behind the work that you do. If you feel comfortable, would you be willing to share your own story of grief with our listeners?
Absolutely. You mentioned our daughter dying, but before that, in 2009, my mum was diagnosed with brain cancer and 3 weeks later died.
Oh, wow.
And so that was a very sudden, I guess a really sudden loss for us because she was the matriarch of the family. I had 3 teenagers at home and I had a father in his 80s that now had to work out how to live without his wife. And so that was our first really big personal loss within the family. Within 16 months, our daughter had died.
Wow.
And so 2009 and 2010 was really tough for us. Sarah's journey was very different. She was fit and healthy, was in year 13 at school, had just been to the school ball, as there are many balls happening at the moment, and she just got a flu, or so we thought. But it turned out to be meningococcal septicemia.
Wow.
And so it saw her airlifted to Dunedin Hospital for 3 weeks and then flown on the life flight plane to Auckland to Middlemore Hospital to the burns unit for 7 weeks. So it displaced our family from all that we knew. All of our knowns were gone while she was fighting for her life.
Wow.
It was a very stressful. I felt very disconnected because everything I knew how to do was gone. But I did get pretty good at being a bit of a coordinator in the hospital setting and finding some strengths that I didn't know I had in myself. In the July, Sarah died, and that started another whole journey for us with grief and trying to work out how to come back to Invercargill after being away for 10 weeks and apparently become a bit of a celebrity. It was really tough.
Wow. So all the attention.
All the attention. And that's because our community is amazing. It's because people cared. People wanted to know. People followed her journey. I remember when she was in hospital, Suzanne Prentice called in to see her, and then our wonderful Mayor Tim Shadbolt came in, and they said to us, "Is she famous? Is your daughter famous?" I said, "No, this is Southland." Southlanders caring for Southlanders. And so when we got back, there was a lot of Southlanders who needed to tell me, and particularly me probably because I was the one that was away the longest, how sorry they were and how gutted they were. And so that added another dimension of stress to my reality and to the kids' reality and to Robert's reality. But, yeah, I struggled with that.
Wow. Yeah. Oh, wow. Yeah, that's, must have been a really, really hard time, a huge, to navigate all that, that sudden, the loss of your mom first, and then 16 months later to navigate the sickness of your daughter. I can imagine the anticipation of what was going to happen.
And the unpredictability, because you never really know. Like 1 minute she's going to be fine and you're taking home someone who's had 3 limbs amputated, and the next minute a sepsis shower happens and she's very, very sick again. And so I learnt a lot in those 10 weeks about chronic sorrow and what it's like to live in a place where you are quietly watching the person disappear, the living loss. And it's quite different to grief that comes through bereavement or through other losses. Often chronic sorrow is referred to when families are living with a child with a disability. And so you are chronically long-term watching with sorrow the things that your child doesn't get to achieve that their peers are. And so that was all new for me. Like I'd worked with special needs kids, but I'd never felt that myself as a lived experience.
Yeah. Being in that.
In that chronic sorrow and not knowing. Like uncertainty is a terrible thing, isn't it? Because when we're uncertain, we get anxious and we get fearful. But like the world, it's a bit uncertain. And so then we go into all those stress response states. the thing is that grief and fear create the same body response. And so you feel grief, but you may experience it as fear. And so I was grieving, but I was also fearful. And they were just mixed together. And the same body response of fight, flight, freeze was keeping me going for a long time.
Wow. Yeah. 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 So looking back to that experience, can you tell us a little bit more about what helped you during that time? So when you said when you came back, there was a lot of people showing obviously they care, but it felt like it was very overwhelming.
Oh, it was.
Yeah.
Initially, I thought I had to work it out myself. And so being the problem solver that I am, I found the places that were the hardest to be in and tried to work out how I could manage them better. And so a good example is the supermarket. Now, this was before online shopping. And so I went to the supermarket and there was always at least 10 people in that shop that needed to stop me and tell me how sorry they were and to hug me. And so I went, I'll just go at a different time. But then there were another new 10 people. And at a different time, there were another new 10 people. And so I started understanding that part of what I had to come to terms with was that they needed to express their grief in an act of mourning and that I needed to steady myself for that. So I started putting in some safety things for myself around if someone hugged me, I would count to 3 and then I would release. Otherwise, it would be too overwhelming. That I had some catchphrases that I would use about, thank you very much, really appreciate your concern day by day. Life is really rough. Because in that moment when they ask, how are you? They don't want to hear, I'm fine. They're going to keep asking. And it was actually the staff at Middlemore Hospital that told me to do that, to have a statement worked out. And that was really helpful. And that came from advice from medical professionals. So I started working out it was really important to do my own self-care really well. But then what I started realising was that unless you've done grief, you don't know grief. And so I had a really good friend, I've still got her, I'm very blessed by that, who unfortunately had experienced significant grief in her life. And when I was with her, I could be my real authentic self and I could just let it out. And that was vital, finding someone who got it. Unfortunately got it, but who got it. It helped me to find ways to connect when things were overwhelming and people around me meant well, but the statements they used of, time will heal or eventually you'll get over it didn't hit the mark because they hadn't lived it. So I needed people who got it.
In a deep
way. An unfortunate deep way.
Yeah.
And they had come through that and weren't
patronizing.
Yes, and their words were from their heart.
And their being.
They got it. They didn't necessarily understand my it, but they got it. They got
felt
grief.
sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And so that was really key for me. I didn't need it all the time, but I knew when a grief wave hit me, I needed to find someone that could tell me I wasn't going crazy.
Wow.
That could put into words what I was feeling because I hadn't done this level of grief before. Mum was different. She was older. Your 18-year-old daughter isn't meant to die before you.
Oh, yeah.
So that was really key, was finding people and connecting and seeking help. But then what I really found was useful was I did some part-time study through Welltech. Did a certificate in trauma studies.
Wow.
And it was the grief literacy that really helped me. It was reading about grief. It was understanding that it's not normal and there's no set path. It was all of the head knowledge that helped me to manage my heart. And I wasn't talking about big novels and books. Like it was, so I'm going to show you, it was just basic handouts. And these ones are from Skylight Trust. It was just finding things that made it make sense, because grief doesn't make sense.
Yeah. In a way, did the study help you to normalize how you were feeling?
It actually gave me words for what I was feeling. So when Sarah was here in Invercargill, they sent the Black Thunder rescue helicopter down to get her. And I was meant to go on the helicopter with her. And at the last minute, I wasn't allowed to board. And so we had to watch her fly off to Dunedin and then get in the car and drive in the dark to Dunedin, not knowing if she was alive or not. And so for a long time, the helicopter landing at the hospital was a really big trigger for me. And when I did my study, they explained it as being emotional recycling, that in that moment I was emotionally taken, trauma trigger, back to the place, and that it was okay. I wasn't going crazy. It was part of working through the trauma event and the grief attached to it.
I love that. It's so liberating when you know there's actually nothing wrong with you and it's not your fault.
There's lots wrong with me, but not as far as grief goes. And it was, because you literally think you're going crazy.
But it's a survival response.
It is a survival response. And if we look at it from a physiology point of view, that grief is triggered through loss, it's automatic. You don't get up and go, well, today I'm going to have a headache and start grieving. You wake up and you go, I got a headache and I just can't function. What's going on? And it takes time for our prefrontal cortex, our thinking brain, to work out what's actually going on in that survival brain. And so the little snippets of knowledge were gems for me. And I think often when I'm talking to people are the gems that they take from our conversations as well.
Wow, what a powerful story. And is this how the Loss and Grief Centre was birthed?
Yes. I guess when Sarah died, my heart broke in a way I didn't know it could break. But then a few months later, Jessie Lynham died in a car crash coming home to see her parents. They were teachers at Hargest. And we're very involved in Hargest at that point in time. And my heart broke again, and I didn't understand it because I didn't think it could break again. But it broke in a different way. It broke because I knew that family was going to experience something that I was experiencing and how horrific it was. And then a few months later, someone that I work with, who at that point in time, I was in a different job. I was looking after her son, doing some special needs work, and he died.
Oh, wow.
And I looked at them and I went, who is there to help us? Because I am struggling. And so I started asking questions. I asked questions first at the hospital with our wonderful Dr. Vili Satutu. And he said to me, actually, there's nobody. When your child dies and you've been through the hospital, you are no longer clients of the hospital. And so all of that support is removed.
Wow.
And so for the next 18 months, Vili and I met semi-regularly, and we started looking through New Zealand and throughout the world to see what is there out there. We knew that in Southland there were some really good services available, but you needed to be able to access that service. And I couldn't access any of them. I couldn't use victim support because Sarah wasn't a victim. Couldn't use the hospital because Sarah was only in the emergency department. And so beyond finding a private counsellor, there was nothing. And so we started talking. Then we did some community engagements and talked to stakeholders and started saying, what is it that our community needs? So I knew what I needed, but I didn't want to be the person that thought I knew what everybody else needed. And all the rest of the professionals said, we need a hub. We need a centre. We need play therapists. We need support groups. We need resources. We need workshops. And they said, Caroline, go to it. But I gathered other professionals around me. So it's not the Loss and Grief Centre in memory of Sarah. It's the Loss and Grief Centre doing something with what I've been through and I guess showing gratitude to the community that, although at times it was overwhelming, carried us and loved us and cared for us when we lost her. So it's a lot bigger now than 10 years ago when I started. And if I'd seen 10 years ago into the future, I might have been a wee bit petrified and not started it. But that would have been from fear, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
So that's why my heart broke twice, Andrea.
But what an amazing resource that you've created, not only for this community, but also for this nation, and a model for, so many people that can come now for support. So they don't have to grieve alone.
Ah, and that's the thing, isn't it? When we're with our tribe and when we're connected, we can be vulnerable, but we are seen. And that was the thing. I needed to feel seen by someone who could see past everything and see into what grief was like for me.
And holding space and holding that story.
Absolutely. Yeah. And not going away and then judging me, thinking, oh, she's something wrong with her, she needs to go to counselling, which is what some of my friends said, because it was out of their scope of ability to manage. It was out of my scope of ability to manage. So I could totally see that for them it was actually too hard.
So early on you mentioned about, when you first came back after tragically losing your daughter, and it was so hard, you were trying to navigate your own making sense of what has happened, and you came back and all these people were asking you questions, or they were giving you hugs because they were grieving themselves. So if you had advice for people supporting others who are grieving, what advice would you give them? Like, how would friends show up for someone who's grieving?
Ironically, Andrea, the answer is in the question. You need to show up, even if it's uncomfortable for you as the friend. Even if you haven't lived that level of grief, still show up. Don't tell the person who's grieving, call me if you need anything, because we don't have the capacity to do that.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you have to show up. You have to be able to be with and not think you need to fix, because grief doesn't need fixed. It needs expressed. So it's about doing things with the person who's grieving that gives that person who's grieving a sense of safety and connection, also some control, but also shows that unconditional love and acceptance of them. It's also a role where at times you might have read some of the grief literature and have some key phrases that you can use with them, because remember, we don't know the language to explain what we're feeling. But I do remember when someone said to me, grief is as unique as your fingerprint. And I was like, that's it. That makes so much sense. And that's why I'm grieving differently to the rest of my family, because we're all so unique. In fact, I think Simon Barnett has just had an interview about that. After his wife died 2.5 years ago, he said, someone told me just recently that there is no normal in grief, and that all of me and my girls are going to feel it differently. So those are the key statements. It's not about thinking, oh, I need to get them to stop crying, or I need them to be okay. It's about giving permission for them to not be okay, and that's okay.
Yeah, I love that. Permission.
Permission, by just being. We're human beings.
Not doings.
Not doings. And when it comes to grief, I think we sometimes feel like we need to do more. But by being with someone, then we know what we need to do. We don't have the agenda before we get there.
So healing, just to be with somebody who can just hold your pain and hold your story and just, as you mentioned, be with you in it. Yeah, incredible.
And I know it's hard. Like, this is my work now, and I still know that's hard for me when I'm the person who's supporting someone else. So we just need to work to our capacity and our skill set. It's okay to go, look, I don't know what to say. It's okay to say, I'm sorry, but you need to follow it up with that this has happened to you. If we only say, I'm sorry, sometimes the people who are grieving will say, no, it's not your fault. Why are you telling?
Yes. Yeah.
Because what we're really saying is, I'm really sorry that you're in that situation, or that you're having to deal with this pain. And so Work out some statements before you go to see the person. Get some things under your belt, because we know grief's uncomfortable for everybody. And that's when we botch it, when we're stumbling, and then we get nervous and anxious, and then we say all these catchphrases that really aren't that great.
Yes, like, time will heal, and
so many
it will get better.
Yeah, so many people said that to me, and I learnt that time doesn't heal. All time does is it affords me the opportunity to learn to live without the person I love that's died. It's all time does.
Grief is the price we pay for love.
It is.
Yeah. And I know that you've got that on your Loss and Grief logo. Yeah, it's a powerful phrase, or a quote to remind us.
And that's a really good one to insert into your vocabulary and remove time heals. Or you'll get over it eventually. We learn to live with it. You'll move on. No, we learn to move forward. There's subtle changes, but they make huge impact for people.
Yeah, and I think it's the little things that make people feel, as you mentioned, seen and validated, rather than invalidating the experience and going, she'll be right, or you'll get over it. Because we know that, that doesn't happen with grief.
No. And we've got to think that if the grief is because of death, then the grief is there because of love. And so therefore, the longer we're separated from our love, the more we tend to yearn for them. And so therefore, telling someone that you'll eventually get over this doesn't make sense to them, and can sometimes put people into a spiral of them thinking that they're not doing it right.
And the shame.
The shame that it's 18 months and I'm still sad, and everybody else has moved on and said I should move on, but I can't, and so I'm not doing it right. And so then they shut down. Whereas, absence makes the heart grow fonder. We know that's a great cliche statement because it's true.
Absolutely. Yeah. I have a question around, you were grieving yourself as a parent and then having to support your own children through that grief. Can you tell us a little bit more about how that journey was like for you? And I'm just thinking of parents that are grieving who are listening to this podcast. What are some, I guess, gems that you maybe would like them to hear?
Okay, so I guess when we're parents who are grieving and we know our kids are grieving, we become quite hypervigilant. We're watching, we're checking, we're making sure everybody's okay. And sometimes we forget to invest in ourselves. And so the first thing I would say would be, parents, look after yourselves. Get some help for yourself. That's not a sign of weakness. That's a sign of understanding that this is big and overwhelming, and there are multiple people experiencing multiple grief experiences, even though it's the same loss that's triggered the grief. So find someone like I did to talk to. It doesn't necessarily have to be a professional. Find someone that's safe, that gets it, because then you will work on your grief and you'll get to a better position for yourself, which will help you to manage and to see and notice what's going on for your kids. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. It's a little bit like the oxygen mask analogy in the aeroplane. We need to put our mask on first before we put it on for our children.
Absolutely. And when your mask is on, that doesn't mean that you stand back and watch your child flailing around, but it means you've got better capacity to help because you've done the work of grief, because grief does not go away unless we do something with it. And it doesn't actually go away. It gets woven into our reality. And so look after yourself. Maybe get some information like those handouts I showed that talk about the types of things different aged children might start showing us by their behaviour. Because grief is physiological, but it's also about brain development and cognitive development. And so younger children are going to show you grief differently to teenagers. And so go and learn about that stuff. Look at your age of your kids. Get some credible information. Again, I say Skylight Trust is great. They've got lots of stuff, and they will just email out handouts if you make contact with them, because then you aren't going to be too hypervigilant and overreactive because you're already in a state of stress and grief and fear anyway. And so get some things that give you your anchor. And if you think your children are doing things that they wouldn't normally do, as long as it's not involving self-harm, it's probably okay.
Expression.
It is. They've got to show it. And it might mean they become quieter, or they lose their appetite, or they don't sleep well. Those are all things that adults experience with grief also. Perhaps one of the best things that I've learnt is from the Seasons for Growth courses that we take, which is, as adults, we're not very good at naming our feelings. And children are only learning about feelings. And so encouraging our kids to name what it is that you're feeling is really important. Like giving them the words, helping them with words. Because if we can name it, then we can claim it and own it. And then we know what to do to aim it, to do something with it so that we tame the intensity. Name, claim, aim it, and tame it. Not taming it as in making it go away, but taming it as in I'm not going to have it end up in anger when it's actually, it's actually sadness that triggered that.
Yes.
But we've got to model that.
Yes. Yes, I was going to say about modeling. So, like with parents who are grieving, it's normal to cry, it's normal to feel numb. Would you encourage parents to be real with children? Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think as parents, again, we go into that protection state. And so we think, oh, I better not cry in front of them because they look like they're happy and I don't want to upset them. We do that around other adults too. But at the stage that our children are at developmentally, we have a wonderful opportunity as the adults in their world to show them healthy expression of emotions,
Loved it.
healthy grieving, healthy happiness. We need to model it, but then have the right language when we're with our children to say, it's okay, I'm just missing Dad at the moment. I'm going to have a cry because I know it's good for me. I'm okay though. Because we know our kids also don't want us to be upset, and they don't want to do anything that upsets us any more than we already are. But from parents I've worked with, when they have switched it from hiding their emotions to showing them, it's almost like it gave permission to their children that they were also allowed to be real and show their emotions more rather than contain them and hide them out of protecting their parents.
And then it results in healthy expression.
Yes.
Whereas we know that the more that we suppress, the more it results in behavioral issues that come up, in anger, as you mentioned, defiance probably.
Absolutely. Yeah. Health issues. I think people underestimate the impact physiologically that grief has on people's health and well-being. And so there's lots of evidence to show that when you're grieving, your immune system's affected. Your sleeping's definitely affected, which of course means everything's affected. Your ability to eat well gets affected, and often we look for the quick fix foods, the high carbs to give us the energy lift.
Or the sugars.
The sugar, Me and chocolate were very good friends for a while. He was my 3 p.m. Until I realised that actually that wasn't healthy. But at that time, it's what I needed when I was on the road driving back from some school in Southland and was starting to lose my focus. So we need to go actually all of our body, our mind, our heart, our soul, everything is affected by grief. And so our kids are the same.
I love that. So the healing is also a very holistic kind of view. I'm thinking about even looking after your own well-being, not just emotionally, but all these other things as well. Like in Fari Tapafa, we talk about looking after our tinana. So making sure we're getting enough sleep and eating well. Is there any other tips that you have for parents around well-being?
I think if you're not sure, take your children to the doctor. Get some bloods run. The number of people that have come back and said, oh, my child was low in iron. How did that happen? grief. That's how it happened.
Yeah.
And so, absolutely, we're creatures of habit, aren't we? And if our sleeping pattern and routine gets broken for too many nights, that then becomes a pattern and a routine. And so sometimes we need to go and get help around what does a sleep routine look like? How can I make this better? And that's not necessarily any type of prescription I'm talking about, but it's about understanding what things help a sleep routine to be better. Drink more water, people.
And you mentioned earlier exercise.
Exercise, sunlight.
Yeah.
All of the things that in the past have been good for your well-being are the things we need to do more of when we're grieving. And when we're grieving, we just get into that state and it's like a roller coaster or a treadmill or however people view it. And we forget because we're literally surviving. And so we don't stop and think, I haven't had any drink, I haven't had any water for 5 hours. We don't think that, we're just surviving. And so we need to actually choose one thing and bring it back in and make it part of our habiting again and into routine again. Yeah. Don't try too many at once. Think one thing. What's the thing that's going to make a difference? And if you're low in water, then you're not releasing the adrenaline from your body unless you cry, and then you're dehydrated. And so if you drink more water, your body's going to flush it out, which is going to give you a better night's sleep. So they're all linked, but we start with body first.
I love that. I love how you've just talked about grief as a physiological response in the body. And I think even for listeners, just hearing that can be so liberating, because often you think there's something wrong with me, or there's a shame response that comes in. I have to get over this. It's been 18 months, why am I still spiraling in that grief? But there, as you mentioned, like grief is a journey. And,
it is a journey.
There will be different things that will trigger at different points in time as well. And
absolutely. And I think people learn about the triggers, but they also learn about secondary losses. And those are the things that come because of the trigger for the grief. And so for me, an example would be maybe 2 years after Sarah died, one of her good friends got married and invited us to the wedding, which was beautiful, and had her photo up the front and lit a candle for her. Absolutely, but also, and in that moment I was like, I'm not happy, but I'm at a wedding. And so it's about understanding that when you're grieving, you can have multiple emotions all happening in your body at the same time. And that's what happens as you keep working on grief and keep moving forward. You start to understand those things. You start realizing that those things in your future are triggers, but the better you get at doing this, the more you work at it, the stronger you are. The more you see them coming, the more you know how to navigate them, and that makes you a better version of yourself.
So in that moment where it was a joyous occasion, it brought up sorrow.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And I did anticipate a little bit. She'd said that she was going to light a candle, but I did not realise that Sarah's photo would be on the table at the front. And that's what hit me. The visual of it. Yeah. And also it was beautiful, and I was so grateful and felt so blessed that she had, after 2 years, still wanted to admit and acknowledge that Sarah should have been her bridesmaid and should have been there.
Wow.
But it was about me going, it's okay to feel sad about this. It's actually okay to be a wee bit miffed, a wee bit annoyed and a bit frustrated that my daughter's not going to get married as well.
I'm hearing you say allowing yourself permission to hold space for all the emotions that come up. So whether it's anger, whether it's sadness, confusion.
And all at the same time.
Yeah.
Which, you know.
Messy,
really messy. Like hangry is a really good word, isn't it? When you're hungry and angry.
Yeah.
And we need to be more aware that this happens with grief, that we have moments where there's like 3 or 4 emotions surging through us, which is really confusing, but really normal, because they all reflect the processing that needs to happen about the event that we find ourselves in or that moment.
Absolutely. And I think there's been such a stereotype thinking that grief happens in a linear kind of phase. Do you want to talk a little bit more about that?
Absolutely, I can do that. So I, back in the day when I was a much younger version of myself, I was trained in the 5 stages of grief, Elizabeth Kubler-Ross's work. And it was very new work at that stage. And we were told by my organisation that I worked for that this was what we used if we sat with people who were bereaved. You know, that it was linear, that they would go through these steps and that at the end they would get to acceptance. And so when you put in steps or stages of grief, it still pops up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think the thing that we've got to remember is the context of why there are those stages of grief. And that when Elizabeth actually formulated this, she was working as a palliative care nurse, watching people who were given a terminal diagnosis, who did deny that can't be me, that's not fair, who did get angry. What do you mean it's me? I'm fit and healthy. That then went to bargaining, I will take every treatment that I can possibly get to live, who then got depressed when they realised that terminal was still terminal and that it was going to be the end of their life, and that the acceptance was that maybe, hopefully, people got to a point of finishing well, coming to terms with it and ending and saying what they needed to say. And so that means that if we hear those, that we just keep that in context, because grief from bereavement or grief from any other loss, because remember, it's not just death, that is not linear. It is messy. It is 1 step forward, 5 steps to the side. If I had a piece of paper and just drew squiggles, that's a perfect grief journey. But movement is the important thing here. Going backwards is okay, because sometimes I've got to stop and look back to deal with something that at the time we dealt with to the level we needed to move forward. But then in our world that we're in right now, we have to stop and look back and pay a bit more attention. That's okay. And so, yeah, grief is not linear. It's not A to B. If it was, I wouldn't need the Loss and Grief Centre. We'd have a manual, and it would be something that we could just pick up and go, like, if you exercise, you get fitter. If you do this, you'll resolve your grief. But it's not like that.
No. I love that. I love that grief is messy.
Yes.
And it's okay that it's messy.
The messier, almost the better, because the messier tells me that you are working on it, that you are pulling out parts of the mess to look at. You know, if I pack a suitcase to go on a holiday and I have put my nightie at the very bottom and the first thing I need is my nightie, I have to move it all out, don't I? Yeah. And it's like that with grief. You open up the lid and there's lots in the suitcase. And so it's got to get messy as you take stuff out and look at it. As you're looking for that one bit that you need to resolve today, it's going to be messy. And that's okay.
Could you speak to, I've worked alongside lots of people grieving, and, sometimes something that comes up is the fear of losing their loved ones if they move on with their life. For example, if you move on to a new city, or they're creating new memories of joy, maybe they have grandkids, and they're worried that they're going to lose that connection, that they're going to lose the person that they love. Yeah, have you experienced that fear? And
absolutely,
how, yeah.
And I think I am the person I am today because I had 3 children. Only 2 survived, but Sarah crafted me into the mother I am, just like Rachel and Adrian did. That is never lost. I am who I am today because of all of the grief I went through. And I would not be this version of myself if it wasn't for what we've been through. And so sometimes people just need to go, I am who I am because of them, and to hold that tight and to remember that they were part of our world, and as we move forward, who we are because of them never goes away.
You're always connected.
Always connected.
I love that.
And I think individuals have to do the other parts around keeping someone's memory alive in the way that works for them. So we still have photos in the house. It's still Sarah's bedroom up the back. For, what is it, it's coming 16 years, for 13 years, the shoes that she took off the night before she died stayed at the front door where she put them. I actually stopped noticing them because they always put their shoes at the front door. It's just what they did, all the kids. And then one day I went, oh, it's time now to just put those away. And so do it as it feels right.
Yeah.
If you need to keep clothes, keep clothes. Don't panic that you're going to lose them because you will never lose who you are because of them and the experiences that you have and will continue to have. And you can keep bringing them into those experiences. You can keep them alive by talking about them or joking about them or honouring them in tangible ways.
I love that. There's no rush.
No rush. No, I think it was 6 months before I even looked at Sarah's wardrobe. And then I looked at it and shut the door and went, no, not today. Whereas for my dad, he wanted my mum's clothes removed really quickly. And that was just him being really logical. I'll use that side of the wardrobe. Let's just get the clothes out. So there's no right or wrong.
Exactly. No right or wrong. No manual.
No.
You do what's right for you.
That's right. And like sometimes when people die tragically, people want to do a memorial type action. I really encourage that. Like acts of mourning are really important, and that's how we keep our loved ones with us. And so on Sarah's 1 year anniversary, the warehouse wanted us in the car park because she used to work there, and they were unveiling a plaque on their memorial rock in her name. And that was really important for them. Her school bought kayaks and new hockey gear with fundraising that they'd done. We still make donations to charities, not so much in her name, but knowing that that's part of what we have chosen to do and always did anyway, to honour and to remember. Sometimes people will plant daffodil bulbs and then that reminds them of the person that they love. People make wee memorial gardens at their house and they go out there and they sit and they talk to the person, or they go to the cemetery and spend hours at the cemetery with their person. So remembering is about us choosing.
And being intentional with our grief.
Yeah. Look, I guess 15, nearly 16 years on, it's refreshing for me when I come across someone who doesn't know who I am. But then it's also beautiful when people are like, oh, that's right. And they talk about Sarah. Or if they knew my mum, they'll talk about my mum. And, that's a long time ago.
It's beautiful.
It is. And it's one of those gems that we hold on to, one of those glimmers, one of those things that give us a moment of joy.
Yeah, absolutely. Wow, there's been so much wisdom in this conversation. And we're just to maybe wrap up the conversation here. So if you could speak directly to a grieving parent or a grieving child, is there any key messages that you would like them to hear? Absolutely. You're going to be okay. I know you don't think you are, and I know you're worried, but you are going to get through this. Grief is a normal process. It reflects love. It's messy, absolutely chaotic, and often incredibly overwhelming. But you can do this. Get people around you that are going to help. Don't be scared to ask for help. Lean on others. You don't know what you don't know. So trust your gut. Slow it down a bit. Put down some of your responsibilities and give yourself time to heal. If you had a broken leg, you'd do that much better than when we have a broken heart. So appreciate that it needs work and it needs time and attention. And if you try to run away from it, it just catches up with you. So you might as well invest that energy into dealing with it. And that it's about love. It's about love.
And how lucky are we to have loved either a job or a pet or a person. And so in that way, grief can't be all that bad if it's because we loved.
Yeah. Grief. It's because we love.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. And the depth of our grief is going to be equal to the depth of the love.
So the more we grieve,
Yeah.
it shows that it's because we love
Absolutely.
so deeply.
And isn't that an amazing yet painful way for us to honour someone who's died? Is that our expression of grief upholds their mana, upholds their memory, upholds the love that we had. So, hera ki tu, which is better times are coming. Hold on to that. You will find them. They are there.
That's cool. So if listeners want to connect with you or learn more about the work of the Loss and Grief Centre, I know that you go around the country doing workshops and trainings as well. How can they find you?
We have a website, lossandgriefcentre.com. We're on Facebook. Come down to the centre. That's the beauty of the centre, is that you can just drop in. You can just connect when you need. And you might not be grieving yourself, but you might want to come and suss us out before you come across someone that's grieving or before you yourself are grieving. So we welcome anybody to pop in. All the details for contacting us are on the website.
Awesome. Thank you, Caroline, for this really heartfelt, meaningful conversation and just sharing, your real life experience. And I just hear the love for Sarah in this conversation. Love your mom. It never dies. It continues on and on and on. And what a great testimony of, how you have journeyed through grief and now are, using this as a story to help other people through their journey as well. So thank you for, being with us today and being with the listeners. And thank you, everybody, for being on another episode of Empowering the Village. That wraps up another episode of Empowering the Village. I hope today's conversation has provided you with valuable insights and the inspiration you need to make a difference in the lives of the children you care deeply about. You don't have to navigate this journey alone. We have a wealth of additional resources, courses, and tools designed to empower you further. Head over to our learning platform at nurturingrelationships.thinkific.com to access resources and learning to continue making a positive impact. Thank you so much for listening and being a vital part of this community. Until next time, let's keep empowering the village.